So today's Black Facts. Let me give some context. Right now, around the country, we are having some very interesting conversations around critical race theory. Is it being taught in K through 12? What does critical race theory mean? And quite frankly, most of what people attribute to critical race theory is not actually critical race theory. What people are attributing critical race theory to is just plain old Black history and Black culture. So people have decided to use critical race theory as a basis for their attack on certain educational materials. Some of those educational materials are books. As your friendly neighborhood librarian, you know that I am not going to allow this to happen quietly. I am going to speak out. So for today's Black History Facts, I'm going to highlight some books that have been banned and challenged and either removed from school libraries or requested to be removed from school libraries, school classrooms, teachers' curriculums, lesson plans, all those things. And all these books are written by Black authors and or highlight issues in Black history and culture. So let's go ahead and pop those pictures up so I can dive into these books. Winfred, you have the pictures up? I can't see them.
You can't see them. Okay, so the first one is Ruby Bridges Goes to School is up.
Perfect. So many of us know the story of Ruby Bridges and how she desegregated a school in New Orleans when she was just a child. So people have said that this book should be removed from schools because it makes white children feel guilty about racism, white supremacy, all the things that surrounded Ruby Bridges and her having to desegregate the schools. So once again, this is not teaching critical race theory. Right. This is teaching accurate Black history and the experiences of so many Black children of that time. So this book has been banned and challenged in school districts around the country, namely in the state of Texas, saying that it promotes racism and that it makes white children feel guilty.
Should feel.
And next. You can just tell me the titles since I can't see the pictures.
Something happened in our town.
Oh, yes. Okay. So this book is about an incident with a Black person and a police officer in this town. And the book is written from the points of view of a Black boy and a white girl. And so once again, good old Texas has this book and I'm not going to say the state of Texas. I'm going to say certain school districts and even politicians have this book listed as a book that should not be included in the classroom or in libraries because, again, they feel that this promotes racism and they feel that it paints the police in a negative light. And so this is Something Happened in Our Town, which is an absolutely incredible book. It's compelling reading, and I absolutely love it.
This one is A Good Kind of Trouble.
Okay, so A Good Kind of Trouble, which is by Lisa Moore Remay. So this book is kind of young. It's YA, what we call YA in librarianship. So it's a young adult book. I would say 6th to 9th grade. And in the book, the main character is wrestling with the idea or the prospect of joining the Black Lives Matter movement. And so this book has been banned and challenged in school libraries and schools around the country because parents believe that books that promote Black Lives Matter should not be available to students. Okay. Winfred, I see you biting your tongue.
I think we both are. It's kind of like,
Well, there's always a follow up. There's always a
yeah.
discussion after this. So I know we want to dig into it, but yeah, let me get through the books and then we can get into the meat.
When Wilma Rudolph played basketball.
Okay, so the anti-critical race theorists believe that teaching about the struggles, even though these things are true and they happen, they believe that teaching about the struggles and historical accuracy of things that Black people experienced is teaching critical race theory, which that's not what it is. It's just teaching Black history. It's teaching about factual events that happen. So they've been targeting books that talk about specific people's experiences and journeys. And with this book about Wilma Rudolph is one that has been on several lists of books to be banned, challenged, and removed from school districts, school libraries, classrooms, everything like that. The people who are asking for this book to be banned say that it also promotes racism and that it shouldn't, or that teachers shouldn't be able to talk about prejudice based on race. So they want this book taken out of the curriculum.
So we should talk about prejudice based on.
Go on.
We're going to get to the meat in a minute.
Something happened. This is Michelle Obama.
Yes. So this book in particular, when I read that this book was being banned and challenged, I chuckled to myself because I read some of the comments from parents who asked that this book be removed. And I don't mean to laugh because this is very serious. So censorship is very serious. Trying to whitewash history is very serious. And trying to tie people's hatred of critical race theory with just teaching accurate Black history is very serious. But I chuckle because some of these opinions or some of these justifications for removal are just hilarious to me. And it's hilarious because it's absurd. So for this Michelle Obama book, this specific one, a parent said that in this book that it depicts Donald Trump as a bully, and that it because Michelle Obama gives kind of reflections about her experience as a Black woman, they feel that should not be in a book made for children. So they want that out. I hear
New Kid Class Act.
Yes. So Jerry Craft is a very gifted YA or young adult author. And these are two of his books, New Kid and Class Act. And the reasoning behind removal of both of these books is the same. White parents feel that the characters in this book, because I'm not sure if y'all read them, but both of the books talk about what the experience of Black boys at that young age and at that age at school. So white parents feel that these experiences shouldn't be put in books and that it paints white people as racist. And so they want these books removed.
Okay.
Ghost Boy. I would say Ghetto Boys. All Boys Aren't Blue and Ghost Boy.
All right. So these are two books. First of all, I'm going to start with All Boys Aren't Blue. All Boys Aren't Blue is an incredible book. It's a hard read. I'm not going to lie. It is a bit of a hard read because it talks about molestation and sex between men. So while I can understand parents' concerns about that, I don't understand them wanting to completely remove a book in which many Black boys that age can identify with. And so their reasoning behind this is that, of course, it talks about molestation and the sex between two men. And then there's some like sprinkles of race, like racism and racial mentionings in there. But they definitely want All Boys Are Blue out of there completely. And then the second one is it woke? I can't remember which ones I put together.
No, Woke was on the last one.
Okay. Woke was on the previous slide, the previous one. Oh, I didn't even get to talk about it. So Woke is an amazing book. It's called Woke. I think it's a young poet's call to justice. Absolutely incredible book. It's a really, really good read. It's a collection of stories by Black female authors, like poems by Black female authors. Very empowering, very enriching, in which these poets talk about their experiences at the intersection of race and gender. And so parents definitely oppose that book because it talks about Black women and their Black experiences. And parents feel that it should not be included in the curriculum. Yeah. And one parent actually said that having that collection of poems promotes terrorism.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Ghost Boys.
Ghost Boys.
Okay. So Ghost Boys was challenged and removed. Again, for some of the same reasons as we talked about before. Parents were adamant that having books that talk about the experiences of Black kids, of Black people, even Black kids, promotes racism. So that was their reasoning behind wanting to pull Ghost Boys, which is actually a really good book. That's also about YA, I would say 6th grade to 9th grade or so. But it really just talks about frank experiences of Black kids and Black boys at that age. But white parents are like, no, that should not be required reading. That should not be in the curriculum. Because it's promoting critical race theory and it makes white children feel bad.
Okay.
There's a running theme. Can you see?
Yeah.
You don't want to feel bad.
Going on about 5, 6, 7 books ago.
Right.
Yeah, there's a theme.
That's the last one.
Okay, so to get into the meat of this, I have very strong opinions as a Black librarian. Number one, I'm grateful that I work for a system that adamantly defends free and equal access to all. So my library system does not promote the removal of materials from our collections. We believe that everyone who comes into our spaces should feel represented and should be able to find resources that they can relate to. I think that it is ignorant, and ignorant in the bad way, because normally when I talk about ignorance, I say it's just not knowing. But this is flat out bigotry. This is flat out prejudice. This is flat out white supremacy. This is flat out racism to try to pull books that tell the stories of Black people, that tell the accurate stories of Black people. Ruby Bridges had to desegregate in elementary school when she was in elementary school. Ruby Bridges had to be accompanied by armed officers.
Police officers.
Ruby Bridges had to endure having rocks and bottles and all kinds of things thrown at her just for being a little Black girl who wanted to go to school. There's nothing critical race theory about that. That is history. That is her story. That is what she has lived. And she's not the only one who lived that. So for parents to say, well, we don't want stories in the classroom that make our children feel bad. Guess what? If they feel bad, that failure is on you. Mm-hmm. It's not on the school system. It's not on the teachers. It's not on librarians and library staff. Yep. If your children cannot be taught about accurate Black history without feeling guilt and without feeling bad, it's because you avoided the conversation for way too long. And you have not given them the opportunity to have these conversations with people who can explain it in a way to where they won't feel guilty. And as someone who does equity, diversity, and inclusion training, even if they do feel guilty, it's your job as a parent to guide them through that and to teach them how they can help. That's what you're supposed to do as a parent versus pull books that show representation of little Black children who may not see themselves. Do you know how many young gay Black boys are struggling with their identities and how few books are out there that actually talk about their identity? Do we know how many Black youth who are in the LGBTQIA plus community who are struggling at the ages of 10, 12, 14, 16, and who can't find themselves represented in books? Books tend to be and so for you to pull those materials and to pull those items just because you don't agree with Black stories being told in an accurate manner makes you ignorant, it makes you a bigot, it makes you a white supremacist, and it makes you stupid. And you need to do better.